Hello, crafty friends. This is Anya General with Ink, Paper, Scissors. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a long video for you. I'm fulfilling a much requested ask. So many of you have requested that I create a follow-up card video to my 22 Distress Oxide technique video. I loved all your feedback and I've heard you. Today, I'm going to show you how I created 11 cards with my Distress Oxide backgrounds. I also have a bonus card for you at the end. I still have a lot of backgrounds left. I ran out of time to get this video to you on time. If you like this video, let me know in the comments and I may do another follow-up with the remaining backgrounds. I had so much fun putting these together, and I can't wait to share all the ways you can turn your backgrounds into stunning cards. They're all a little bit different to give you plenty of ideas what you can do with your backgrounds. If you love card making and enjoy my content, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Also, I've linked all the products I used in today's video below and in more detail on my website. If you would like to support the work that I do here on my channel, I would appreciate it if you would use my links to shop. Alright, let's jump into our cards. For the first card, I picked the stamped background with Wilted Violet and the Gina K Thankful Greenery stamp. I am adding green color to my leaves with Copic markers. Copic markers are alcohol markers, so they won't react with the Distress Oxides. I'm using YG13, YG07, and YG17 today. I color each leaf with YG13, then add a little bit of YG17 at the stem, and then blend it out with YG07. To fill in the berry leaves, I use BG32. I am speeding this up for you so you don't have to watch me color. I have one tip for you. If you color outside the lines with alcohol markers, you can use your colorless blender to push the ink back into the line. You see me do this here, then I take my heat tool and dry that area really quickly so the ink stays where it's supposed to. Then I'm using the antique frames by Penny Black to cut down my A2 panel. I am using the largest frame today. If you don't have any dies like this, you could also use the Tim Holtz Decal Torn Edge trimmer for this, or you could tear your edges with a ruler. Then, to give the edges an antique look, I decided to use the Tim Holtz Distress Foundry Wax in the color Statue. I shake the bottle well and add a large drop onto my glass mat. This wax dries quickly, so I don't recommend putting a lot out at one time. It's better to start with a little and keep on adding to it. I'm using my finger to dab the foundry wax onto the edges of my card, but you could also use a paintbrush. I dab it on around all the edges and then use my heat tool to transform it to a glossy finish. It is really neat watching the wax transform, but sadly the camera did not pick it up well, so I hope you get to try it yourself. Next, I looked through my gem drawer for some flower gems. I felt these were perfect for this. Initially I was going to use round gems, but then I opted for these flowers. I add some glue in the areas where the flower petals are, and then adhere the gem flowers on top. Then I use some fun foam to give my card panel some dimension and adhere it to an A2 card base, and my card is complete. For the next card, I am using the background where I lifted the ink off the leaves and flowers with water and a paintbrush. Then I added color to the flowers and leaves with a paintbrush. I mentioned in my Oxide video that this is one of my favorite backgrounds, so I decided to let the background stand out in this card. I am die cutting it with the largest rectangle from the Gina K Master Layouts 2 set. Once I die cut it, I am adding dimension by adhering a panel of fun foam to the panel. Then I adhere it centered onto an A2 card base. Then I am die cutting the words Happy Birthday from gold glitter cardstock and several times out of heavyweight white cardstock. This die is by Burniston called Happy Birthday. I adhere all the white layers together and add the glitter Happy Birthday on top. I then center it onto my Distress Oxide panel and add some gold glitter drops by Pink Fresh below and above my words, and my card is complete. For my next card, I am using the Distressed Resist background where I trapped color below my embossing powder. And then I ink blended dark colors over it. Today I changed my mind, and I decided that I want my background to be lighter. So I'm using salvaged patina to lighten my background by ink blending over the dark color. This is the beauty of Distress Oxides. Initially, I was using my Altenew sticky mat, but then I decided that Oxides blend great on a glass mat because you can move the color from the glass mat onto your card. I am ink blending salvaged patina all around the edges, lightening my panel. Then I'm taking my microfiber cloth and cleaning the ink off the embossed areas, such as the butterflies and the flowers. This is another stunning background that should be fully visible on the card. And because I want it to stay this way, I'm using Distress Microglaze to seal the background. This way, no water can affect the background. I'm using a Tim Holtz blending foam to apply it to my card panel. I also find that Distress Microglaze brightens your background a little, so I like using it when I think I'm done with my background. I apply it lightly in circular motions because you really don't need a lot to seal your colors. This process is like buffing your card panel. Once I'm happy with it, I lay it to the side and start working on my sentiment. I am using purple glitter cardstock from the Glitz Glitter Pad by Memory Box. There are a lot of beautiful colors in this pad, and I'm flipping through them, deciding what I want my color choice to be. Then I'm die cutting the Gina K Love Caps and New Caps dies from white and dark purple glitter cardstock. I cut several layers from white cardstock to stack them for dimension. Then I start adhering them together. When I'm ready to layer my purple glitter cardstock on top, I make sure to offset it slightly so the white peeks through, drawing the eye to it since my background and glitter cardstock are on the darker side. I will speed up the process and let you enjoy the assembly of it, and then I'll be back to finish our card. Now it's time to cut down my Distress Oxide panel to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I adhere it to my card base, centered so the white edges on the card base show evenly. Then I start adhering my letters with a T-ruler, making sure they're straight. Lastly, I add some Twilight Ombre glitter drops by Pinkfish Studio, and my card is complete. Card number 4 is one of my favorite cards. I don't make mixed media cards often, but when I do, I always love them. Here I'm taking my blue ink blending brush and ink blending over the wide areas of the card panel. I am not adding any ink to my brush here because I want only a slight hint of color. Then I'm placing the Elegant Script background stamp by Gina K Designs into my MISTI, and I'm using a sticky mat to hold down my panel in the middle of my MISTI. I'm using Pebble ink by Catherine Pooler to stamp the script on my background. Any light gray ink would work here. Then I'm taking the Mask and Fillers stencil by Gina K to add some texture to my card. I am masking the edges off with Post-it notes so nothing seeps onto my card where I don't want it. I'm using Hero Art's metallic wax paste in the color white. This paste has more of a pearl look when dry. I used it in this video for the first time and loved the results. I'm using my spatula to apply a little bit of the paste to my stencil, and then I'm using the same spatula to spread it out across the dotted stencil. I then lift the stencil carefully and place it in a different place on my card. I repeat the process in 2 more areas so that I have 3 areas with the paste on my card panel. Then I heat set the wax paste and it starts bubbling up under the heat. You could let it air dry and then it would remain flat, but I wanted to experiment with it and get a mixed media look today. I move on to die cutting all the other pieces I need for my card. I used the circle die from the Gina K Master Layouts 19 set to die cut a craft colored circle. Then I used 2 of the leaves from the Foliage Fillers die set to cut out 5 leaves out of white cardstock. Once my die cutting is done, I cut my card panel down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Then I use some white green twine to wrap around my card panel twice. I tie it with a double knot and cut off the ends. The knot will be hidden so we don't have to worry about how it looks. Next, it's time to assemble our card. I add some foam squares to the craft circle and adhere it to my card. Then I start adding leaves to my circle. I cut the stem off so that I can tuck most of the leaves below the circle without interfering with the foam that I already have there. I add 2 different types of leaves on each side of the circle and add a 3rd one to the top to make it look fuller. Then I add a sentiment that I had in my spare die cut pile to the card with some foam adhesive for dimension. This sentiment is from the current Gina K Floral Friendship Kit, which includes the Gentle Silhouette stamp and die set. I've mentioned it in my videos before. This kit is a great value as it comes with all the dies. I love it when companies include sentiment dies with their stamps. And just like that, our mixed media card is complete. Moving on to another favorite card of mine. I am in my creative groove now, so I feel my cards are progressing nicely. At first, it was difficult to pick a background since I had over 20 card panels to choose from, but once you get started, it becomes less overwhelming. This card was so much fun to create and so easy to make. I am taking my watercolor panel and I cut it down to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. Then I'm taking the Floral Friendship stamp set by Gina Designs and I stamp one of the flowers in my MISTI with gray ink. You want to use some type of stamp positioner for this because we will return to stamp the flower again. So to be clear, I don't remove the stamp from the MISTI door just yet because I will need it after I do my ink blending. I'm placing my Altenew sticky mat onto my glass mat and using my light, medium, and dark Orchid Gina ink cubes today. I start ink blending my flowers. I will speed up the process for you and play some music. Once I am done ink blending, I place my flower panel back into my MISTI and use VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp over the flower. Then, because I'm already stamping, I stamp out a few sentiments so I have several to choose from. Then I die cut the flower and sentiments. While I'm die cutting, I'm taking the largest rectangle from the Gina Master Layouts 1 set and die cut my watercolored panel. Then it's time to assemble our card. I use a sheet of fun foam to adhere behind my watercolored panel. Then I adhere my panel centered onto an A2 card base. While I'm letting it set, I start adding foam behind my flowers and behind my sentiment. Then I adhere my flowers to my A2 card and add some clear iridescent gems, and my card is complete. For the next card, I'm using the Treasured Kittens stamp and die set by Gina Designs. I think these kitties are super cute. I'm stamping one of them onto my 80-pound Nina Classic Crest cardstock. For the sentiment, I'm using VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. For the cat, I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, which is Copic friendly. Next, I take one of my panels that I used the baby wipe technique on with the Music Madly stamp, and I spritz it twice with my silver sheer shimmer spray off camera. After my panel is dry, I die cut the second largest arch from the Nested Globes die set by Memory Box. Since I'm die cutting, I proceed to die cut my kitty and my sentiment with the coordinating dies. Then it's time to do some light coloring. I'm using R20 for the ears, nose, and lips of the kitty. Then I'm using W00 and W01 for the feet, neck, and tail of the kitty. This is only supposed to add some light shadow, as my kitty will be white. I used to have a white majestic cat, so this reminds me of her. After I'm done coloring my cat, it's time to assemble our card. I'm adding some fun foam behind my arch to give it some dimension. Then I adhere the arch centered onto my A2 card base. Then I add some foam behind the kitty and my sentiment set, and I add the kitty to the right bottom corner of the card. I place the sentiment at the top left-hand side to balance the card. Because I already used the sheer shimmer spray on my card, I do not need to add any more sparkle. Next card. I believe we're on number 7 now. I'm using another watercolored background and I'm die cutting it with the stitched rectangle in the Master Layouts 2 set. Then I'm die cutting a purple background with the larger rectangle in the same set. This is going to be my layering panel. I adhere the watercolored stitched panel onto the purple panel and then add fun foam for dimension behind it. I adhere the panel centered onto my A2 card base. Then I start laying out my butterflies that I created in my Distress Oxide video. I fold them in the middle so they look real, like they're just sitting on my card base. I take a stamped sentiment from the Delicate Flowers stamp set and I'm ready to assemble my card. I add a small strip of foam behind each butterfly and then adhere them on my card. Then I add foam to the sentiment and adhere it to my card at the bottom left corner. Again, I'm not adding any sparkle here because I spritzed the butterflies with the sheer shimmer spray in my Distress Oxide video. And we're already moving on to the next card. I die cut the thick frame from Master Layouts 18 several times out of white heavy cardstock and once out of gold metallic cardstock. I adhere them all together and then place it onto my distress background. Once I have it where I want it, I trace around it with a pencil. Then I take my Tim Holtz scissors and cut the panel slightly smaller than the outline that I created with my pencil. Then I die cut a layering panel out of dark teal cardstock with the larger rectangle in Master Layouts 2. It's time to assemble the pieces now. I glue the frame to my panel and then adhere the panel with my frame to the dark teal layering panel. I then adhere it centered onto my A2 card base. Next, I pick one of the feathers from the Fancy Feathers die set by Gina and I die cut several of them for dimension. I adhere them together and place it in the center of my frame. Then I take another sentiment from my sentiment stash that I've talked about on my channel before. If you have not heard about it, look in my YouTube Shorts section. This sentiment is also from the Delicate Flower stamp and die set. I add foam behind the sentiment and adhere it to my frame in the right bottom corner. Then I add some dots of glue to my feather and adhere it centered onto my card. The white feather pulls together the white frame from the card base, and the metallic frame adds some sparkle. And this completes my card. Next, I'm using one of my favorite backgrounds from the Distress Oxide video. So I wanted to make sure that this card would give the background justice. I start by cutting the background down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Then I adhere it centered onto my A2 panel. Next, I take my leaf mix die set by Altenew and I pick 3 leaves from it. Then I find some platinum sheen vellum in my vellum scraps and I die cut my leaves from it. I also die cut the Love You So sentiment several times out of white heavy cardstock. This sentiment is from Concord 9th Just Saying die set. I stack my sentiment die cuts for dimension and center it on my card front. Then I start adding the leaves and adhering them only by adding a few dots of glue where the leaf will be hidden behind the sentiment. I also add a dot of glue at the end of the leaf so it doesn't curl up on me. I repeat this process for all 3 of my leaves and then adhere my sentiment on my card, making sure that the leaf edges are well hidden behind it. Then I add some clear iridescent gems by Pinkfir Studio and my card is complete. I wish you could see the sparkle from the background on this card. It is stunning. Card number 10 is my fairy background. I spritzed the background off camera with my sheer shimmer spray in silver and allowed it to dry. When dry, I used the largest rectangle in a Master Layouts 2 set and die cut my panel so my card front will have a nice white border. You will notice a theme in my cards today. Where I usually don't often create a border around my cards, in today's cards I often do. And there's a reason for it. So rather than walking you through this card, which is very simple, I will talk a little about why I'm adding white borders to my cards today. I feel if you have made it this far in the video, you deserve a good nugget to take home to your own card making. So the reason for my borders today is that most of these distress oxide panels are full of color. And you may have noticed from my videos that I like to add balance to my cards. White adds balance and contrast. When a card is filled with vibrant colors, white acts as a visual breathing space, preventing the design from feeling overwhelming. The reason the technique works so well is because it enhances contrast. White makes colors appear even more vibrant by giving them a clean backdrop to stand out against. It also creates focus. White areas help direct the viewer's eye to the most important parts of your design. It also adds sophistication. White gives a crisp, polished, and professional look to your cards. It also provides a resting place. A card filled with color can feel busy. White helps balance that by offering a space for the eyes to rest. And it works as a highlighter. White elements like die cuts, sentiment panels, or borders help define and frame the colorful elements, making them pop. So I hope this was helpful to you. We'll get back to my last card now. For the last card, I picked one of the ink smooshing distress oxide backgrounds. I used my sheer shimmer spray in sparkle to spray down my background. Once my panel is dry, I die cut the hang-on stars by Tailored Expressions, but any stars would work here, since the background adds all the interest. I also die cut a happy birthday sentiment from the Spellbinders Layered Mix and Match Sentiment set. This was once a small die of the month. I will look if Spellbinders still carries it and link it below for you. I also die cut the sentiment from holographic metallic cardstock to add more shine to the card. Once my stars are die cut, I start laying them out on my A2 card base. I arrange several large stars and then add the sentiment to make sure I add the stars in alignment with the sentiment. I will let you watch the rest of the process of this card and return to show you my bonus card. For my bonus card, I used one of the distress Oxide panels where I stamped picked raspberry on top to show that the color layers well. I cut the panel down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches and adhered it to my card base. Then I die cut the giant Thanks So Much by Lawn Fawn several times out of white cardstock and once out of holographic cardstock to stack for dimension. I adhered them together and centered it onto my panel. I added some clear iridescent gems and the card was complete. And there you have it, 11 ways to use Distress Oxide backgrounds in your card making. If you loved this video and want me to create another follow-up using the rest of the backgrounds, let me know in the comments. I would also love to know which card was your favorite today. I always love hearing from you. Thanks so much for spending your time with me today. If you found inspiration in this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more card making tutorials. If you're looking for more card ideas, check out the Use Your Scrap series or my other technique tutorials. And don't forget, all the products are linked in the video description and on my website, where you can also subscribe to get notified when I post new content. I'll be live this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will also be back next week with another scrap video or technique-focused tutorial. Until then, happy crafting, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.